Hello and welcome back to the church building. I'm Andy and we are reading the entire Bible, the whole thing, cover to cover. And we're currently in 2 Chronicles, about halfway through. We're going to be starting on chapter 18 and going through chapter 20. So let's dive right in. Now Jehoshaphat had great riches and honor, and he made a marriage alliance with Ahab. After some years he went down to Ahab in Samaria. Ahab slaughtered an abundance of sheep and oxen for him, and for the people who were with him, and induced him to go up against Ramoth Gilead. King Ahab of Israel said to King Jehoshaphat of Judah, "Will you go with me to Ramoth Gilead?" He answered him, "I am with you, my people are your people, and we will be with you in war." But Jehoshaphat also said to the king of Israel, "Inquire first for the word of the Lord." Then the king of Israel gathered the prophets together, 400 of them, and said to them, "Shall we go to battle against Ramoth Gilead, or shall I refrain?" They said, "Go up, for God will give it into the hand of the king." But Jehoshaphat said, "Is there no other prophet of the Lord here of whom we may inquire?" The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "There is still one other by whom we may inquire of the Lord, Micaiah, son of Imlah, but I hate him, for he never prophesies anything favorable about me, but only disaster." Jehoshaphat said, "Let the king not say such a thing." Then the king of Israel summoned an officer and said, "Bring quickly Micaiah, son of Imlah." Now the king of Israel and King Jehoshaphat of Judah were sitting on their thrones, arrayed in their robes, and they were sitting at the threshing floor at the entrance of the gate of Samaria, and all the prophets were prophesying before them. Verse 10. Zedekiah, son of Chenaanah, made for himself horns of iron, and he said, "Thus says the Lord, with these you shall gore the Arameans until they are destroyed." All the prophets were prophesying the same thing, saying, "Go up to Ramoth Gilead and triumph. The Lord will give it into the hand of the king." The messenger who had gone to summon Micaiah said to him, "Look, the words of the prophets with one accord are favorable to the king. Let your word be like the word of one of them, and speak favorably." But Micaiah said, "As the Lord lives, whatever my God says, that I will speak." When he had come to the king said to him, "Micaiah, shall we go to Ramoth Gilead to battle, or shall I refrain?" He answered, "Go up and triumph, they will be given into your hand." But the king said to him, "How many times must I make you swear to tell me nothing but the truth in the name of the Lord?" Then Micaiah said, "I saw all Israel scattered on the mountains, like sheep without a shepherd. And the Lord said, 'These have no master. Let each one go home in peace.'" The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, "Did I not tell you that he would not prophesy anything favorable about me, but only disaster?" Then Micaiah said, "Therefore hear the word of the Lord. I saw the Lord sitting on his throne, with all the host of heaven standing to the right and to the left of him. And the Lord said, 'Who will entice King Ahab of Israel, so that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead?'" Then one said one thing, and another said another. Verse 20, until a spirit came forward and stood before the Lord, saying, "I will entice him." The Lord asked him, "How?" He replied, "I will go out and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets." Then the Lord said, "You are to entice him, and you shall succeed. Go out and do it." So you see, the Lord has put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets. The Lord has decreed disaster for you. Then Zedekiah, son of Chenaanah, came up to Micaiah, slapped him on the cheek, and said, "Which way did the Spirit of the Lord pass from me to speak to you?" Micaiah replied, "You will find out on the day when you go in to hide in an inner chamber." The king of Israel then ordered, "Take Micaiah and return him to Amon, the governor of the city, and to Joash, the king's son, and say, Thus says the king, put this fellow in prison, and feed him on reduced rations of bread and water, until I return in peace. Micaiah said, If you return in peace, the Lord has not spoken by me. And he said, Hear you peoples, all of you. So the king of Israel and King Jehoshaphat of Judah went up to Ramoth Gilead. The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and go into battle, but you wear your robes. So the king of Israel disguised himself, and they went into battle. Now the king of Aram had commanded the captains of his chariots, Fight with no one small or great, but only with the king of Israel. Verse 31. When the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, they said, It is the king of Israel. So they turned to fight against him. And Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him. God drew them away from him. For when the captains of the chariots saw that it was not the king of Israel, they turned back from pursuing him. But a certain man drew his bow, and unknowingly struck the king of Israel between the scale armor and the breastplate, so that he said to the driver of his chariot, Turn around and carry me out of the battle, for I am wounded. The battle grew hot that day, and the king of Israel propped himself up in his chariot, facing the Arameans until evening, and then at sunset he died. Let me just step back here. And did he ask? So they did the disguise thing. King of Aram. Okay, King of Aram said to attack the king. But Jehoshaphat was saved by God. And Rehoboam was killed by an arrow. Give me a moment. Okay. Chapter 19. King Jehoshaphat of Judah returned in safety to his house in Jerusalem. Jehu son of Hanani the seer went out to meet him and said to King Jehoshaphat, Should you help the wicked and love those who hate the Lord? Because of this, wrath has gone out against you from the Lord. Nevertheless, some good is found in you, for you destroyed the sacred poles out of the land and have set your heart to seek God. What's the difference between a seer and a prophet? Jehu son of Hanani the seer. Okay. Verse 4, Jehoshaphat resided in Jerusalem. Then he went out again among the people, from Beersheba to the hill country of Ephraim, and brought them back to the Lord, the God of their ancestors. He appointed judges in the land in all the fortified cities of Judah, city by city, and said to the judges, Consider what you are doing, for you judge not on behalf of human beings, but on the Lord's behalf. He is with you in giving judgment. Now let the fear of the Lord be upon you. Take care what you do, for there is no perversion of justice with the Lord our God, or partiality, or taking of bribes. Moreover, in Jerusalem, Jehoshaphat appointed certain Levites and priests and heads of families of Israel to give judgment for the Lord and to decide disputed cases. They had their seat at Jerusalem. He charged them, This is how you shall act in the fear of the Lord, in faithfulness and with your whole heart. Whenever a case comes to you from your kindred who live in their cities concerning bloodshed, law or commandment, statutes or ordinances, then you shall instruct them so that they may not incur guilt before the Lord, and wrath may not come on you and your kindred. Do so, and you will not incur guilt. See, Amariah, the chief priest, is over you in all matters of the Lord, and Zebediah, son of Ishmael, the governor of the house of Judah, in all the king's matters, and the Levites will serve you as officers. Deal courageously, and may the Lord be with the good. Okay, we got chapter 20, which is a pretty long chapter. Chapter 20. After this, the Moabites and Ammonites, and with them some of the Meunites, came against Jehoshaphat for battle. Messengers came and told Jehoshaphat, A great multitude is coming against you from Edom, from beyond the sea. Already they are at Hazar Tamar, that is, En-Gedi. Jehoshaphat was afraid. He set himself to seek the Lord and proclaimed a fast throughout all Judah. Judah assembled to seek help from the Lord. From all the towns of Judah they came to seek the Lord. Jehoshaphat stood in the assembly of Judah and Jerusalem in the house of the Lord before the new court, and said, O Lord, God of our ancestors, are you not God in heaven? Do you not rule over the kingdoms of the nations? In your hand are not our power and might, so that no one is able to withstand you. Did you not, O our God, drive out the inhabitants of this land before your people of Israel, and give it forever to the descendants of your friend Abraham? They have lived in it, and in it they have built you a sanctuary for your name, saying, if disaster comes upon us, the sword, judgment, or pestilence, or famine, we will stand before this house and before you, for your name is in this house, and cry to you in our distress, and you will hear and save. See now, the people of Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir, whom you would not let Israel invade when they came from the land of Egypt, and whom they avoided and did not destroy, they reward us by coming to drive us out of your possession that you have given us to inherit. Verse 12. O our God, will you not execute judgment upon them? For we are powerless against this great multitude that is coming against us. We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. Meanwhile, all Judah stood before the Lord with their little ones, their wives, and their children. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jahaziel, son of Zechariah, son of Benaiah, son of Jeiel, son of Mattaniah, a Levite of the sons of Asaph, in the middle of the assembly. He said, listen, all Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem and King Jehoshaphat, thus says the Lord to you, do not fear or be dismayed at this great multitude, for the battle is not yours, but God's. Tomorrow go down against them. They will come up by the ascent of Ziz. You will find them at the end of the valley before the wilderness of Jeruel. This battle is not for you to fight. Take your position, stand still, and see the victory of the Lord on your behalf, O Judah and Jerusalem. Do not fear or be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, and the Lord will be with you. Then Jehoshaphat bowed down with his face to the ground, and all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell down before the Lord, worshiping the Lord. And the Levites of the Kohathites and the Korahites stood up to praise the Lord, the God of Israel, with a very loud voice. Verse 20. They rose early in the morning and went out into the wilderness of Tekoa. And as they went out, Jehoshaphat stood and said, listen to me, O Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in the Lord your God, and you will be established. Believe his prophets. When he had taken counsel with the people, he appointed those who were to sing to the Lord and praise him in holy splendor as they went before the army, saying, give thanks to the Lord, for his steadfast love endures forever. As they began to sing and praise, the Lord set an ambush against the Ammonites, Moab, and Mount Seir, who had come against Judah, so that they were routed. For the Ammonites and Moab attacked the inhabitants of Mount Seir, destroying them utterly. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, they all helped to destroy one another. When Judah came to the watchtower of the wilderness, they looked toward the multitude. There were corpses lying on the ground. No one had escaped. When Jehoshaphat and his people came to take the booty from them, they found livestock in great numbers, goods, clothing, and precious things, which they took for themselves until they could carry no more. They spent 3 days taking the booty because of its abundance. Verse 26. On the 4th day they assembled in the valley of Barakah, there they blessed the Lord, and therefore that place has been called the Valley of Barakah to this day. Then all the people of Judah and Jerusalem, with Jehoshaphat at their head, returned to Jerusalem with joy, for the Lord had enabled them to rejoice over their enemies. They came to Jerusalem with harps and lyres and trumpets to the house of the Lord. The fear of God came on all the kingdoms of the countries when they heard that the Lord had fought against the enemies of Israel. And the realm of Jehoshaphat was quiet, for his God gave him rest all around. Verse 31. So Jehoshaphat reigned over Judah. He was 35 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 25 years. in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Azubah, daughter of Shilhi. He walked in the way of his father Asa and did not turn aside from it, doing what was right in the sight of the Lord. Yet the high places were not removed. The people had not yet set their hearts upon the God of their ancestors. And the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, from the first to the last, are written in the annals of Jehu son of Hanani, which are recorded in the book of the kings of Israel. After this, King Jehoshaphat of Judah joined with King Ahaziah of Israel, who did wickedly. He joined him in building ships to go to Tarshish. They built the ships in Ezon-Geber. Then Eleazar, son of Dadavehu of Mareshah, prophesied against Jehoshaphat, saying, "Because you have joined with Ahaziah, the Lord will destroy what you have made." And the ships were wrecked and were not able to go to Tarshish. That concludes our reading for today. Thanks for joining me. We'll continue on with 2 Chronicles next time. Have a good night.